Hey there, I'm Helen Young-McLaughlin, and welcome back to Leading from the Middle, where I am taking an opportunity to connect with 23 different leaders this year to learn a little bit more about what they believe companies can do to turn their middle managers into their most valuable asset. And today I have with me Travis Furlow. Travis is a vice president of client delivery for People Scout, a true blue company. Welcome, Travis.
Thanks, Helen. I appreciate you having me here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. I wanted to just hear a little bit from you about what your role is at People Scout. I believe you mentioned you oversee a team of about 450 people.
That is correct. I am blessed to have a fairly large team. People Scout is a recruitment process outsourcing company. So we support clients around the globe, and we have individual client relationships. Those client relationships each have their own dedicated recruitment team. So
Hmm.
my role is to ensure that our teams have what they need to go deliver what we've committed to our clients, and that the relationship with the clients are in a position that they feel pretty excited about what we do day in and day out so that we can continue to do business with them. So yeah, I have a 1 foot in the relationship management world and 1 foot in the operational world. And I guess the whole thing is overarched by the profit and loss and kind of general business operations that we own. So yes, I am blessed to lead 450 people and a portfolio of 10 different clients around the globe.
Wow. And no stress there, right?
Yeah, we, we don't have to get into it.
We won't. That's not what today's about. So, Travis, I am connecting with 23 leaders and I'm asking everybody the same question, which is what is one thing that companies must pay attention to when it comes to developing their managers? And I'd love to hear your perspective.
Easiest way for me to answer this is going to be the word accountability. And I think accountability can sound a bit cliche from a leadership or management perspective. Where I go with it, though, is it's not unilateral accountability. I think leaders, we've got to hold ourselves accountable. I think we have to hold our teams accountable. And I drive a level of transparency from a leadership perspective into my teams so that they also know that I would like them to hold each other accountable. I have this story that I share with people to kind of bring this to life. If the end game is we want to have a clean neighborhood, how about we all take care of our own front porches? So if you can focus on what's in your control and you can hold yourself accountable, if all of us have that kind of same true north, neighborhood ends up being clean, business ends up being done well, and I think everyone feels more connected.
So, I love this about accountability because the first time somebody hears accountability, what they might assume the negative.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, our parents probably said it to us, or grandparents, or other families in the neighborhood when you were a young kid. We got to hold you accountable. Well, it starts with the you're in trouble, but
Right.
accountability isn't a you're in trouble thing. Accountability to me is probably the most pure way to be open and honest and transparent. If I
Mhm.
said I was going to do something and I didn't do it, how come? I'm going to own it. I can reassess what I wanted to commit to. I can make another agreement and go in a different direction if needed. So I don't think of accountability as I'm in trouble. I think of accountability as a responsibility I have, and I think you have, not only to your listeners but your clients, your partners. We've got a responsibility to commit to delivering what we say we're going to deliver, or be willing to say, hey, I made an error. I can't deliver what I thought I could deliver. Here's what I could do. Does it work for you? So I just think it's a way to guide conversations. That's a
Yeah.
big thing for me too.
And when I'm listening in here, I also hear there's a reflective component to this, right? We have to be able to stop, ask ourselves a few questions. I love pairing curiosity with as a leadership tool and skill. We need to be able to stop and say, okay, so what worked well? Oh, I wasn't able to actually get this done in the time frame. I understand the layered effect that this might have on my team or for my client. How do people learn this?
Another, it's another really good question. So I'll tell you how I learned it. Um, I learned it in a program that I was invited into back in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
It was a program that was revolved around up and coming leaders. And I had a coach, and I had a coach that was focused on accountability. And you know this, the world that you live in. I do think the idea of having objective mentors, objective leaders who can support you in seeing when we look internal, everything else seems to click into place.
Mm-hmm.
See, I used to think that if I could manage, which was with authority, or tell someone what to do, it just didn't work as well. And I know this is going to sound like playground things that we heard 25 years ago, 30 years ago. Um, you got to take care of your own actions. You got to take care of yourself. And when you do that, I'm a believer that leading by example is a healthier way to go, a more powerful way to go. People will see on my teams if I'm showing up 5 and 6 minutes late to every meeting, then what happens? I'm having people show up 5 or 6 minutes late. And if I turn around and say, well, I can't believe you're late when I'm late on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
hypocrisy takes over. And then everyone goes, well, we're not going to listen to what this person's got to say. I think we got to lead by example. And I had to explore internally, was I behaving the way I would want someone who's going to partner with me to behave? And if I wasn't, I change me, and then I can ask them if they're willing to partner in, and they'll know the boundaries of what I'm expecting as a leader. I think that's a huge piece for people as middle managers kind of growing their careers.
Right.
That's a huge lesson that I learned as I was in that same position. Hopefully that answers the question.
Absolutely. And the fact that you can take yourself back to a point in time where you're like, this changed me, this helped develop me, this gave me greater insight, whatever it is, or all of the above. I think that's really important for companies to hear, right? Because the figuring it out as you go approach, that goes so far, right? Sometimes we have to figure things out, but it's not a sustainable practice. And it's something that I talk about inside the program, the Leverage Academy, where I work with mid-level managers to help them develop their skills. We talk about, how to set these boundaries. We talk about accountability. But I think the key that I'm hearing from you, Travis, is it's setting those expectations from the get-go while you're also taking a look in, you know, am I showing up the way that I am expecting others to show up? So what does that conversation sound like when you're working with, leaders and managers and trying to get 450 people to stay in alignment, which we know they're not going to be all in alignment at once. But if the goal is to help develop people, develop their skills around holding themselves accountable, being in a safe space to hold their team members accountable, where do you start that conversation?
Here's how I started it. So don't know if this is how everyone would start it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
worked for me.
Yeah.
Transparency. I think transparency leads to accountability. So if you notice that you're missing accountability in the world that you might be leading in, being transparent about how you're feeling and some observations you've made. See, this can become very easy. Let's start blaming other people, or so and so didn't show up, or, I can't get this, or the company won't allow me to do that. Let's scrap that because I don't think that gets anyone anywhere. What I think, going back to this transparency leads to accountability, I have a direct report team of 10. So inside of my direct report structure, those folks have a direct report structure that would be another 45 to 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it cascades down into our recruiters, our recruiting coordinators, some of our analysts. So if we're going to do this in a cascading way, when I took this role on a couple of years ago, what we started with, I asked questions of what do they want from me? And I didn't ask them to do anything. I didn't push an agenda. I didn't shove the way I thought it should be done. I asked them what they wanted. And most of my direct reports at the time I asked kind of cocked their heads in a weird way and like, well, what do you mean? So what do you need? Do you need me to be in your business every day? Do you need me to be away from your business every day? Do you need me to be available on text or mobile? Do you need me to be on a one-on-one with you? And I have now 9 people who I would tell you all have very different asks.
Mhm.
But I can deliver those 9 different asks because what then they started to do is the same thing. Hey, what do you all need as their direct report teams? And then I merged scalar levels. So we would do broader kind of monthly all hands calls.
Right.
And the whole team gets to watch this interaction where they're asking Travis, did they really just say that to their boss or to their boss's boss? And the answer is yes, because I'm playing a part in making a wheel spin. And so
Mhm.
are you. I just have a different title. And my responsibility is to ensure that we go deliver on what we committed to. And that's how I started it. And now, if you back up a year and a half to 2 years ago, the first call that I was on, it was awkward, crickets, no one was talking.
Right.
So I say that to your audience because it might not go the way you think it's going to go in your head, but you flash forward almost 2 years. I was just on a call 2 days ago with the same group, and I can't get a word in edgewise because they're just going and it's ideas and projects are being flown around and I did this and what did you see over here? That's what I wanted because there's a safety in that. And from that safety comes really good idea generation.
Mhm.
That's what I wanted. That's why I say the transparency leads to accountability.
And I think it's really important that you said, let's go back 2 years because at first you got to be able to sit in the awkward, right? Which is nobody's talking. And I know for some managers that's really hard. It's hard to be quiet because we are fixers. We want to do it. We want to solve it. We want everybody to be on board with us. And so I love that you said, you know what? There were crickets. But now, if we can kind of zoom out and know that if I stay consistent, if I stay transparent, if we, are sharing ideas and information, it will start to build. And I think that's really important because, as you know, if you flash back to when you first started managing, it's hard. You don't have the confidence. You're questioning yourself. I think even now, most of the leaders I talk to,
Absolutely.
we still question ourselves, right? But certainly when you're just getting started and you haven't been given the opportunity to develop some of these core skills, that it's uncomfortable, or it can be for many of them.
Yeah, it can be. And I think you said something important. Being able to sit in the silence, being able to sit in the awkward,
Mhm.
when 5 seconds feels like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
I'm prone to want to talk my way through that. It's my personality. And if I fill that gap with some noise, oh, it'll be better. But one of my directors taught me something about a year ago that I watch her and observe her, and she's probably, if not the best, one of the top 5 I've seen in my career at listening to understand, not listening to respond. And I would say to any up and coming leader, when your teams are speaking with you, that is the honor in itself. If you've created enough of an environment, a comfort that someone is speaking to you, don't think about how am I going to answer, absorb what they are saying. And if you have to, say, this has been unbelievably cool stuff. I need a day to digest this. Like, I don't think there's anything more respectful. And I've been horrible at it for the 80% of my career. I was a listen to respond
Yeah.
person, and I am transitioning into a listen to understand leader. It's changing everything. My world's getting more fun to deal with. My work seems less stressful and painful. My teams seem more engaged. So I'm I would also say that gratitude is another piece, because just because you happen to have the title of manager
Mhm.
or director or VP or chief of
Right.
whatever, surround yourself with people who are really, really good at what they do and learn from
True.
them. It's cool to learn. Like,
Yes.
I think we sometimes forget that. Like, you don't have to have all the answers. Sometimes it's more powerful to go, I don't know, and allow other people to go, I don't know either. Well, then who's going to go find out? Well, I will. Okay, good. Find out and come back and teach us. That's a big piece of leadership that I've shifted over the last couple of years in my career.
I love that. And I was smiling so big around the listening to understand, Travis, because it's one of the first things, it's in the first month of my program. We do an exercise, and people are always baffled because the exercise is you need to just sit and listen to understand. And they were like, chomping at the bit to want to, give feedback or make a suggestion. And it is a big shift because as an individual contributor, we're solving all day long, right? And so to shift from that, it's not the same skill set. We have to learn it. And you just said, I'm just getting better at it over the last few years. And I'll just share that I do believe that communication, listening included, is something we need to exercise every single day, right? It's like lifting that weight. We need to maintain it. And if people do take something away from today, I would love for people to hear, practice the listening to understand versus listening to speak or listening to solve. It really, I love what you said, how it's changed for you, the changes it's made for you. Um, but I also think if we can practice this a little bit more, you'd be surprised at what shows up from people. And not everybody, people are processors. Some people are really big processors, and they need that space in between to allow that quiet, and just could be a simple tell me more. Like they may say something, invite them to tell you more. But for some of us who are talkers, we want to just get in and say a little bit more. So this has been awesome, Travis. I just want to synthesize and help me out here. The one of the big takeaways here I heard is transparency leads to accountability. And if companies paid a little more attention to that, what would happen?
Let's put it in real time examples. If I am in a business that drives revenue, if I'm not transparent with you on how your actions lead to revenue generation, can I really hold you accountable to
Mm,
doing more? If you don't understand what more means, how do I hold you accountable? And if I can't hold you accountable, then I'm not going to end up with the revenue that I wanted in the first place, or the profit I wanted, or the impact in the market, or putting, like, we have this huge piece inside of True Blue and People Scout of connecting people and work. Everything we do means someone else gets to go to work. And in times like now, where there are layoffs happening left and right everywhere around the country and the world,
right.
it is a responsibility our teams have to work to put people to work. That changes lives. So I think if you're transparent,
Yep.
then I can hold you accountable. Then you can go deliver on what the mission, the vision, or the strategy of your business is. So that's how I would synthesize this.
And I hate to say it, but it comes down to communication.
Sure does.
It comes down to if we're insightful, right? We need to be reflective. We talked about that. And we can have shared understanding about how we're communicating, expanding to the why, and making sure that people have what they need. It sounds simple, right? I know it's not. Communication is so messy. But it does come down to that. So I hope, I wanted to ask you, was there anything else we wanted to highlight that you wanted to highlight about today's conversation? Because I keep resonating with this transparency to accountability and reshaping what accountability, how it sounds. Because I heard it as a reflective opportunity for a lot of people versus, maybe this, you're in trouble.
I would add one more piece to this. Looking in the mirror isn't a bad thing. Sometimes we can get a little nervous about what the reflection might look like if we really sit and stare at ourselves for a minute. I'm using that metaphorically, of course, to go
Yeah.
look inside. Look inside. What do you want? How do you behave? What could you do? How could you support? If we collectively spent more time looking internally, the world changes, man. Like it's a
Yeah.
great experience. So I would say don't be afraid of introspection. And I think if we were to put it in order, Helen, introspection is what's going to free you to really get into transparency, which is going to lead to the ability to hold
Yeah.
us accountable. And you can
Yeah.
just see how it all feeds together, right?
I think I might create a diagram after today. I love that. The
Love it.
introspection, and I'll get back to you on that. Travis, where can people find you if they want to learn a little bit more about you and the work that you do?
Yeah, well, listen, I'm always up for an email chat, so you can email me at tfurlow@peoplescout.com. But you can find me on LinkedIn, and I think it's / Travis Furlow.
Okay.
If you want to be friends on Facebook, fire away. You can find me on Facebook too. But I'm always up for a good discussion and to learn from others who are leading people and to share what I've learned over 27, 28 years doing this. So Helen, let me say gratitude moment. Thanks for having me on. I think this is a really cool project that you and your team are doing, and I hope it impacts some people.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to another interview of Leading from the Middle. I'm really looking forward to hearing some feedback from you. I want to connect with you, and you can connect with me directly on LinkedIn at Helen Young-McLaughlin. Just hit that hyphen in between Young and McLaughlin, or you can go to my website at helenyoungcoaching.com. Thanks again, and have a great day.